ABC News proudly presents the 50th anniversary of Life. Join us on a journey through America's great picture magazine. To see life, to see the world. To eyewitness the leaders of our times. To share in man's triumphs. To show the conflicts of mankind. To see and take pleasure in seeing. From New York's Radio City Music Hall, it's the golden anniversary of Life magazine. Your host for the evening, Miss Barbara Walters.
To see life, to see the world, to eyewitness great events. That's how Henry Luce began his original prospectus for a new picture magazine to be called Life. It became the magazine of everything, from its heartbreaking news stories as a weekly to its poignant picture essays that continue on today. No magazine has had more of an impact on the American scene.
Tonight, the editors of Time announced for publication next week a new magazine. The name of this new magazine is Life.
One of life's first and best inventions was the photo essay, in which one photographer would treat in depth a single subject. Gene Smith took The Country Doctor and is the story of his life through his whole day and night and problems he had.
When we caught up with Dr. Sirianni 38 years later, he was still hard at work in the small town of Kremmling, Colorado.
This is definitely not a 9-to-5 job. It's more like a 24-hour-a-day job. Boy, that's right where the scar was.
3 generations of townspeople have been treated for all kinds of ailments by this country doctor who has made time for them all.
Yeah, come on in here. Let's take a look and see what's going on, huh? I have colleagues who shake their head when they find out I'm still in practice. They make such commentaries. Jesus Christ, what the hell are you trying to prove? Within the realm of my experience, it's a fast-dying, I'd like to say art, but we're a fast-dying breed.
Life's founder, Henry Luce, once commented, "Though we did not plan Life as a war magazine, it turned out that way. Life brought war into our homes. It made us understand it, it taught us how to live through it, and in a very real sense, it helped us survive it."
Adolf Hitler, unser Führer, Sieg heil! Sieg heil!
We had photographers in virtually every single development and event in the wars of our time.
Life was the one place that you went to see what the war was like. You obviously read about it in other places and you heard about it on radio, but the only place you really saw it was in Life, and you saw the horror of it, and you saw the occasional glory of it.
The first picture of an American soldier dead was in Life magazine, of a young American lying face down in the sand on the beaches in New Guinea.
Life's war coverage was widely adapted into Hollywood war movies, and often the magazine itself became part of the plot.
He's alive. The first dead man on Omaha Beach is alive. Oh boy, that's great. 200 newspapers in the United States alone, the front cover of Life magazine.
Mr. Smith, I read that March of Time broadcast about what you done on Guadalcanal, and I saw your picture in Life magazine, and I want to say, I feel honored. You rode in my car.
Thanks.
Do you want a copy of Life?
Oh, thank you. I've seen it already.
Life was part and parcel of a soldier's life. He would come out of the front lines, and one of the first things he'd ask for, along with his mail, was a copy of Life magazine, which showed him what was going on at home. Well, they did a whole special issue for the soldiers. It was called Letter to the GIs, and it really summed up America for the soldiers and sailors and Marines overseas, telling what was going on, what was changing, how they could expect to view their families and their friends when they got back. They actually showed them the kind of kisses that awaited them when they got home.
And of course, life's greatest morale booster to the war effort, the pinup girl.
You're my little pinup girl, though we are apart. When I'm in Sleepy Willow, you're pinned on my pillow and also in my heart.
There used to be a saying at the height of our power that peace would never come or the war would never end until a full 5-power conference were held. It would be England, France, Russia, the USA, plus Life magazine. That would be the official end of the war.
Life, of course, had covered war from the days of the Spanish Civil War, when Bob Capa shot his famous picture of the falling Spanish soldier. Then we had war photographers working for Life all through World War II, and then again in the Korean War, and finally in the Vietnam War, so that a great many photographers on Life's staff had had war photography experience at one time or another. Larry Burroughs was, in my opinion, the finest war photographer that we ever had on Life. Larry spent more years on this one war in Vietnam than anybody. Larry simply was there right up until his death, and he was killed during the war on a chopper mission. Shot down. We've never found his body.
Larry Burroughs' pictures filed from Vietnam, along with those by the many other Life photographers, documented the war unlike any other magazine. No war story, though, had more impact than the one called 1 Week's Dead.
It was the faces of American soldiers and Marines who were killed during a single week's period, and it was just face after face after face.
We wanted to show the terrible price that we were paying, that we were going on paying, and we wanted to make people reflect on this price, and we wanted to stop paying the price.
Why did Life magazine come to an end if it was such a beloved magazine? The simple, false, one-word answer is television. People could get their pictures much more quickly from television, and of course you could see them the day that it happened.
When Life came back as a monthly, it was a rebirth that I think just cheered and heartened I think millions of Americans who had come to depend on Life and still do.
What persists are wonderful pictures, and photographers like Cole Rentmeester still go to extremes to bring back exciting images.
Yeah!
And other Life photographers continue today with what has become a Life tradition, capturing the grace and beauty of animals. Life has always been much more than a picture magazine. Indeed, it has set the agenda and mood for this country with its strong opinions and firm stands. No issue was covered more fully and with more conviction than civil rights. It began back in the 1950s, at a time when America was facing up to its own hallowed but often hollow words. All men are created equal.
Sweet land of
Life covered the violence thoroughly and well and courageously, and was most impressed, I think, by the courage of the pacifist Martin Luther King, who instead of fighting back, instead of leading his troops against the antagonists, turned the other cheek.
Speak of living with great anxiety day after day, year after year. That man had to live in terror of being killed every day of his life and not show it.
Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. I don't mind. And I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
We were all really riveted by the speech he made the night before of "I've been to the mountaintop and I fear no man." That was a very prophetic thing that was immediately visible to all of us who had been around him.
Photographer Joseph Lowe was with Dr. King the very next day when he was shot.
My first thoughts was maybe I could still get pictures of the guy across, and I shot a series of pictures going across the way where the shot had come to, and it was in turning that they were pointing over there, pointing to this one place. I was just part of a very dramatic moment.
At Life's printing presses, this cover of Lyndon Johnson was scrapped and replaced with Dr. King's portrait, published with Life's exclusive photographs of the assassination. 1 week later, the issue was devoted to his funeral.
Heroes are people who, on a huge scale, rise above their own anxiety and so succeed in changing the world. They can work for years at their purposes, but they also have to have something absolutely bold in their vision. What is not before their eyes has to be more real to them than what is.
In America, Lord, please, let freedom, let it rain. Oh, all over the world, Lord, 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 let freedom
We turn now to space. Life called man's leap toward the stars, the greatest adventure ever undertaken. The magazine decided early on to devote its enormous resources to covering the incredible stepping stones to the moon. And along the way, life introduced us all to a new breed of hero.
I think when people have a vision of what they want to do and they're willing to accept torture and danger and difficulty and anxiety and instability and insecurity and all of that, then they're heroes. And if they're successful, that certifies it.
In short, the 7 Mercury astronauts had the right stuff.
Smile. Okay, smile. How about turning around? Oh, beautiful.
Of all the astronauts, none had more coverage in life than John Glenn. We spoke to him standing next to Friendship 7. Of course, you didn't have this window. This was all closed in. You had just that little window back there.
Yeah, this was all the hatch here, an explosive hatch. This is the window I could see out of back here, and of course that's a more restricted view. I wish I'd had this picture window here in space.
Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous. Friendship 7, a real fireball outside. Friendship 7, this is Cape. Do you read? Seven, this is Cape. Do you read? Over.
As you were orbiting the Earth, Life's photographers were with your wife and children. And later you saw those pictures, the tension on their face. I've just looked at those pictures again. How did you feel when you saw them?
This showed that what we had gone through was a lot of a family experience. I was the one up there, obviously. They weren't up there. But there was a lot of tension. And my kids, as I say, were old enough to, they knew what was going on and they could follow the whole thing.
What is your status, Solar? This is Friendship 7. My status is excellent. I feel fine.
Over. When you came home, you were an enormous hero. Parades, people cheering, appearing before Congress. Did you expect that?
No, not to the extent that it occurred. I really didn't. I don't think any of us did. I had no idea that there'd be such an outpouring, and I think it was a time when the sort of the national psyche, if you will, was sort of low, and we needed something that people could be sort of proud of and share in, and there was a national pride, and I think it just sort of caught fire at that time. It was really something to find yourself in the middle of that. I've already said that when they get around to doing their geriatric studies, I'm their guy.
The world of sports, with its fierce competition and its heroic stars, is perfectly suited for Life's cameras. And no sports hero ever caught the imagination of the magazine in quite the way of Muhammad Ali. That powerful and poetic 3-time heavyweight champion of the world who called himself the greatest and was.
If not enough to whoop me, I'll kiss his feet in the ring. I'm out of the ring on my knees, tell him he's the greatest, and catch the next jet out of the country.
Right, Mark Crawford, Life magazine, known as
Ali took great pleasure in his relationship with Life, and the magazine covered him more than any other athlete. For Life magazine sincerely liked this brash, charming showman. Ali reflected the same cockiness that Life's editors felt about the magazine. And the louder Ali was, the more Life loved him.
You watch the footwork, you watch the way they move, the duck, the height, the skill, the class, the speed, and you'll bear witness that I'm the greatest fighter of all times.
I understand why he had to, as you might say, be a loudmouth at that time, because I truthfully believe that
if he hadn't made a lot of noise, he would never got a chance at the championship.
Life's coverage of Ali peaked in 1971 when he faced Smokin' Joe Frazier in one of the fiercest fights in boxing history.
Almost ready for the fight of the century.
It would be Ali's first loss in the ring and the magazine's last major report on its champ. Norman Mailer was Life's correspondent.
Life invited me to cover the fight, and then I heard that Sinatra was taking the photographs.
What a fight, what a pace. I've never seen a pace like this.
The fighters, Ali and Frazier, fought with such incredible determination for 15 rounds. No one's ever seen a fight quite like that. I mean, people can go to prize fights all their lives. They'll never see a fight where two men work that hard for 15 rounds.
And still, heavyweight champion of the world, Joe Frazier.
It was a very tough fight for both of them. They were not allowing any reporters into the dressing room. And one of the guys came out and said, "You the champ?" I said, "Yeah," I realized that Ali had spoken. He says, "You can come in just like that." So I went in and they had a big pack on his face and his jaw was out to here. He says, "Well, I guess you're going to photograph my beautiful face with this big pack on it and my jaw sticking all over the place." I said, "No," I said, "You know, I would be happy to, but I just ran out of film." He smiled.
Since its startup, Life has had a special relationship with Hollywood. Its reporters and photographers were given unprecedented access to the sets and to the stars. And in return, Life gave Hollywood the kind of exposure that money could never buy. It was a marriage made in heaven.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? I love to laugh, loud and long and clear.
For a golden girl knows when he's kissed her, it's the kiss of death from Mr. Goldfinger.
The entertainment coverage filled more pages in Life than any department except current news. It's absolutely true that Life had a love affair with Hollywood. The Hollywood producers accepted our presence as both a blessing and a curse. It was a curse because we took their time and interfered with their shooting schedule. It was a blessing because the ensuing publicity couldn't help but do them good.
For years, Life has been the Hollywood barometer, tracing the ups and downs of the stars. And from the start, Shirley Temple was at the top of Life's list.
This was with my very favorite partner, Bill Robinson. I called him Uncle Billy. And we worked so well together, I didn't even have to look at our feet when he was teaching me to dance for one of these numbers. Aw, sweet Bill. We would hold hands, and I would just be able to do the steps with him. It was just kind of magic.
Dear Bingle and myself. That's 1946. I was a child star.
A 2, a 3, a 4.
Crosby and I were both on it a couple of times, doing our dance That's the apex, I think. Just getting on the cover of Life magazine was the top.
In 1953, a baby boy was born to Lucille Ball, and Life published the first exclusive pictures of her family.
It was a thrill I will never forget. Of course, having the baby was a thrill I'll never forget. He was my second child, and it was a boy, the boy that we wanted. But to get on Life magazine with him in a real cute picture like that one, I was very thrilled that Life was interested.
Yeah, there you are. Where? There, holding the baby. Oh, great. That's a fine picture of my left arm. Oh, it isn't everybody who gets their arm in Life magazine. Oh, I don't want my arm in there. I want my face in there. For heaven's sake. If I'd known what they were up to, I'd held the baby in my mouth.
And finally, Life's editors were smitten by Audrey Hepburn, who first appeared in the cover as a shy 24-year-old.
And I remember it coming out and my being very shocked that I showed so much leg on the cover. I wasn't sure that was quite right and what my mother would say.
For more than 2 decades, Audrey Hepburn charmed Life's editors and photographers and Life's readers. She was, in the magazine's words, Hollywood's most gifted actress.
I'm not a trained consummate actress. Each time I came up to bat, tried to find a way to do it, the best way possible.
Oh, how could I be a model? I have no illusions about my looks. I think my face is funny.
I love your funny face. Your sunny, funny face. You're not exotic, but so hypnotic. You're much too much. If you can cook the way you look, I'd swim the ocean wide just to have you by my side. Though you're no Queen of Sheba, for worlds I'd not replace.
I have a very full life. There's a time for everything. And I think now's the time for me, to be in my garden with my roses and my dogs and let the kids do it.
Your sunny, funny face.
Tonight we have looked at some of the people and the events and stories that hold a special place in Life's 50-year history. Obviously, there are many more, for the magazine has covered just about everyone who has appeared in the limelight, no matter how briefly. Life has been the single best reflection of our times and of ourselves. Flipping back through some of the old issues and through its pages today, we can see where we came from, and we can see where we are headed. And I would also like to say thank you and happy birthday to Life magazine on its golden anniversary. May there be many, many more. Good night.